So then we spent...
So 10 miles in,
yeah.
you broke down on a how many mile trip?
I think 26,000.
So 10 miles into a 26,000 trip, you broke down?
Yeah. In 10 miles is probably being generous. We basically drove it a couple miles from wherever we got it to our hostel, and we're like, what's wrong? Why is this not working?
Hey everybody, I've got Nick Rader here, one of our founders, and Nick doesn't know much about this as I've sprung this upon everybody on the team, but we're going through The Vagabond's Way by Rolf Potts, and I'm going to read a page from a day of the year prior to today's date.
Okay.
And then we're going to discuss it, and I have some questions, and we're this is what we're doing now. This is a thing we do.
This is a thing, okay.
Yeah.
Isn't now the time where we say something about smashing a like button or subscribe button, or is that not a thing?
You can smash like or subscribe. Your preference. Okay, so this is January 26th from The Vagabond's Way. There is no shame in traveling for the sheer fun of it. See, I told you I picked the right chapter for you.
And I said before we met, it's not my job.
Okay. To do things for fun smacks of levity, immorality almost, in our utilitarian world. But I must admit that for my own part, I traveled single-mindedly for fun. Freya Stark, The Valley of the Assassins, 1934. Young people are often seen by their elders as less than serious and given to self-indulgent frivolity, but I've actually found the opposite to be the case when giving public lectures about long-term travel. Whereas mid-career professionals and even retirees are not ashamed to admit that they aim to travel for the sheer fun of it, I found that university students in particular feel they need an educational or volunteer service pretext to spend a few months on the other side of the world. Sincere as these young aspiring travelers may be, learning or serving need not be mutually exclusive with having fun. In fact, many a journey undertaken with whimsical or recreational motives ultimately transforms into a deeply educational and philanthropic enterprise. As Lord Stanhope advised his grand tour-bound son in 1750, pleasures are not time lost, provided they are the pleasures of a rational being. Indeed, given the right attitude, one need not have earnest-minded travel motives for the journey to eventually become an illuminating endeavor. As often as not, the most transformative and life-affecting travel experiences flow out from, not in contrast to, a desire to enjoy each day on the journey. In wandering the world attuned to our own passions, we make ourselves more receptive to what people and places can teach us. All right, so I'm just picking these at random, but I feel like that might be a great context. Is there anything that you got from that, like immediately, I guess?
When was this book written? Because what kids, younger people, is this guy talking to that doesn't travel for fun? It's got to be pre-hostel, because I've never been at a hostel at 2 o'clock in the morning where they're there to learn something. It's 100%.
Well, I think what he was getting at is like a lot of times when you do it just for the sheer fun of it, you get like everyone back home is like, well, you're not doing the right thing. You're just going and having fun. And you look down to like people look down on you and like call you like just loose and you're not planning for the future and you're just like being wild and crazy and all that shit.
Well, that's the reason I traveled, was just for fun. But there's also the people that go out and missionary trips or study abroad.
Yep.
And they try and like take a semester or something in Spain.
And
learn a language. And they pull the old, it's going to look good on my resume move.
Yep.
And that is doing the not for fun.
Yeah.
Even though they decided to travel abroad for fun. There's an underlying fun that made them travel abroad. Let's be honest. If it wasn't fun, they would not care about putting that thing on their resume.
I think for me, you're right. Like a lot of my like longer travels, you know, like I did an internship in Uganda for like a nonprofit essentially, or an NGO. And it like got me school credit, but I was having a blast over there, just being in a different culture, having a good time. So you went on a pretty gnarly trip when you were, what, mid-20s?
Yeah, 24, I think.
When you were around 24, 25. Tell us about that moto trip. Kind of give me a quick synopsis of it.
Sure. When I was 24, me and my best friend did a motorcycle trip from South Africa to Norway. Shipped our motorcycles to Cape Town with a plan to do tip to tip, so southern tip of Africa, drive up through the east coast of Africa through like Kenya, meet a friend, climb Kilimanjaro, and then we're going to go through Egypt and then up through to the tip of Norway, like Nordkap, like the highest point up there. That was the goal over a 5-month period. It did not go according to plan, as you can imagine.
What went off course?
Well, it started with we were on a 5-month trip. We were stuck in Cape Town for a month waiting on our motorcycles to get there 2 weeks late. And then they shipped and one broke down within the first 10 miles. So then we spent...
So 10 miles in,
yeah.
You broke down on a how many mile trip?
I think 26,000.
So 10 miles into a 26,000 trip, you broke down?
Yeah. In 10 miles, it's probably being generous. We basically drove it a couple miles from wherever we got it to our hostel, and we're like, what's wrong? Why is this not working?
10 generous miles in to 26,000 miles.
And it took us 2 weeks to figure out the problem. We'd try it, start driving, break down 100 miles later, get stuck. Turns out it was a fuel pump. It went out and we swapped it with one from a brand new dealer. We just took the fuel pump out of a brand new bike to check it. And then they're like, yeah, we'll just buy a new one and you guys can take that one. And we just drove away with some show motorcycles fuel pump from the KTM dealership.
Nice. So when you were doing that, did people back home, in context of this read here, did people back home think you were more? Did they think more that you were an idiot? I knew they already thought you were an idiot.
Yeah. The camp was split for sure. Parents definitely thought it was a stupid idea and I was going to die. Other people thought oh man, that's such a good thing to do. That I wish I could have done something like that when I was your age. And I'd say more than 50% though had more just concern. Yeah.
Well, I would say that, what do you think now that you've done it and come back and you're, over 10 years past it, you old geezer?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. As far as concerns, that's just one of those, you just got to judge anywhere where you travel. And if you feel sketched out, don't continue going in that direction.
That's fair. Just pivot directions, whether that be a physical directional change or a mental change, right?
Yeah, there is thousands of people doing it all different directions at the same time. Sometimes bad things happen, sometimes they don't, but for the most part, we felt generally safe the whole way.
Sweet. So I guess I've kind of walked through everybody's story and how we got involved with TEREN and how the ideas came together. Chris did a really good job of kind of how the story of how you guys met and his origin there with TEREN in the cabin. Give me your when did that idea happen for you? Was it on this trip? Was this maybe not the idea, but this is a lot of backstory? I think we've talked about this a little bit, this trip being such a big focal point in your travel and in your life.
Yeah, for me, it started on this trip, but I didn't know it started on this trip.
Okay.
I guess now that you're putting me on the spot to do it in a more elaborate way.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I had 60 liters for the entire trip.
Okay.
And half of that was camping gear. So I had 30 liters for clothes, laptop, chargers, toiletries, and I think some spare parts for the bike. So I had about 20 liters for clothes.
Laptops back then were they were honkers. They were pretty big.
They were probably 10 liters just in themselves. So I had a very small amount of space, so pretty much one pair of pants. I tried to pack 2 pairs of underwear, but somehow I only packed one. I don't know how that happened, but
I know how it happened. You just didn't pack the other, and you told yourself you did.
Yeah, 2 pairs of socks, a shirt, a jacket, and a rain shell is I think all I had for it.
Okay.
And a swimsuit. I had a swimsuit. I didn't have shorts. And I had to fit shoes in there. So I don't know. I spent all my mental energy like making the bike exactly how I wanted to, and I spent all my budget on that. And then when I got to clothes, I'm just like, well, clothes are clothes. Like, I'll be fine. I'll go to REI and I'll get something somebody recommends. And he gave me like some polyester shirt, and it smelled horrible instantly.
Is that because you smelled horrible?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, other like merino wool I can smell horrible for more days before it is bad. But I realized when I got there and we're hanging out with everybody at the hostel, like I looked like a goober with my overly baggy, like cargo pocket zip off hiking stuff, while all these Europeans looked nice, and I smelled with that one shirt that I couldn't wash very often, and it had to do everything. It had to go do that, and when you're out hanging out with a bunch of friends in a nice town, and then we also had to climb Kilimanjaro. And we had to go to like the Arctic Circle, so we were like all different types of desert, mountain, like Arctic Circle.
Different weather, different terrains.
Yeah, and I was cold in the Arctic, and I was cold on the way up Kilimanjaro, and I just smelled bad the entire trip. And it is what it is. So did that, and then
okay. Just to preface or to interrupt here, Nick looking like a goober and smelling bad. You were blaming the clothes for this? Let's say a high percentage was the clothes, and then a low percentage was just your natural Nickness.
Let's go back a little bit. There were times where we're driving through, like, I think we had one spot where we drove through 800 miles of basically rock road with like boulders this big on it.
Okay.
And it was through Lake Turkana in Kenya, in between Kenya and Ethiopia, and we were buying gas out of Coke bottles because there's like zero infrastructure.
Wow.
It was just basically stick huts that you'd run into, dead camel in the middle of the road because ran out of water. Good signs like that as we're driving through.
So all those people that said you were an idiot, you might have been thinking second thoughts there.
Yeah. Well, it gets worse because we had to go this route because we kind of snuck our motorcycles into the country illegally, and this was the one place that we didn't have to check them out in that help us in the next thing. So there was also stupid reasons that we were going this route.
The dead camel route was the smartest
yes.
route for you.
But so we obviously were doing a lot of showering during that time, and it was 104 degrees. You sweat a lot. You're riding behind your buddy who's kicking a bunch of dust in your face. And I blame the clothes.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't showering in the heat. It was.
That was a nice roundabout way to blame the clothes. Nice. So the smell, you were cold. The style, the look that you got kind of were not what you expected,
So then I went home after this trip and didn't think about it again. And then I was kind of in one of those weird spots in life where I knew I didn't want to be an engineer, didn't like being in a cubicle farm. My wife's very business oriented, made me read all these books. That got me very start a business mentality, start searching your brain for all these ideas. And also at that time, I was starting to re-buy a bunch of camping equipment because my old stuff all got worn out. So I was kind of
like how it all kind of happened at the same time.
Yeah, it's like as soon as you get your all your gear together, somehow the next time you use it, it's all needing to be replaced one by one. It's like you never have the fully this is everything I want. There's always half of it.
There's always something. Update.
Yeah. So I was going through that process and I was having a lot of fun. Just scouring the internet, looking for things. Same thing with clothes. It's I never really had myself a good rain jacket. Let me start looking at that. And you start looking at all the stuff. And then you start I want to get a pair of hiking pants. But now I know I want them to just kind of not be those overly baggy. It's something that I could wear into town and not say, hey, look at me. I'm a thru hiker. I'm doing a motorcycle trip type of guy. And they were very hard to find. So then that kind of let especially back then. And that kind of sparked some ideas, and I actually did try and start sourcing some material, but wasn't in a position to do it. And then lo and behold, one random day, you meet Chris, and
so
then
Chris,
you know from there from Chris. And
so if you haven't seen these episodes before, well, lucky you. There are 3 before this one. We're just getting this thing started, but Chris is episode 2. First one's just a quick intro. Skip that. That's just me talking to myself pretty much. But Chris is episode 2, and he dives into the weekend that you guys met. It was a moto fly fishing trip that got rained out, and they had to get in the cabin, and they started talking about gear. And then, yeah, so go watch that. I'm not going to ruin it. Keep it short and sweet. But, yeah. And then we're here now with our product lineup. Started with pretty much those pair of pants that you were describing that you wanted.
Those are what I wanted. Yep.
And do you believe that you have what you want now?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. And then when I was listening to you describe the clothing you packed, you said most of that 60 liters was bike gear, camping gear, and then you were like, and then I had some clothes. But you did describe kind of what do you think you described?
I just think I described the kit.
The kit, yeah. So the kit is something that we've pursued at TEREN, and we just kind of completed our first line, our first kit. You could put together one pair of shorts, pants, a t-shirt, a button-up shirt, a mid-layer, insulated layer like a puffy, and then a protective layer like a shell.
Yep.
And yeah, that you lived it.
And I would recommend that exact kit for a trip like this. Like I said, I mean, 105 degrees through the desert with dead camels. I think we just got rained on in the Arctic
You would recommend
Circle.
the same kit that you had, or the TEREN kit?
It depends. Do you want to have a good time or a bad time?
Let's just say, hypothetically,
Okay, the TEREN kit. I want to have a better
thing?
time.
It was like,
we're traveling for
sheer
fun.
of it.
Yeah. I thought you were trying to like show what you could endure. So then I would, if you wanted to endure something, use the other kit. If you want to have fun, use the TEREN kit.
If you want life to suck,
yeah,
don't wear TEREN. But if you want to have fun, you should be wearing TEREN.
Exactly.
Nice. Well, sweet. So you've obviously been to a lot of different places. How many countries did you cover in that trip?
Low 30s.
So low 30s in that minimal, terrible kit, pre-TEREN kit.
Yep.
You have a lot of experience in what you should not wear, essentially, or clothing that we do not recommend. But you've been a lot of places after that, and since we've started TEREN and got this thing going. What are some of the craziest places that you've been, or some of the craziest trips you've been on?
Okay. Weird places that like nothing crazy happened was North Korea, Saudi Arabia. We're probably two of the more oddball countries.
I don't know many other people. I do know a couple other people who have been there because
the person that I went with. Yeah. So those were two, probably just the two weird countries. Me and my wife, my motorcycle got left in Romania. My wife's Romanian.
Yeah.
She grew up with her grandparents. They have a barn in Romania, and I didn't really have the money to ship the motorcycle back from that trip. I kind of,
ran out of money after 27,000 miles.
Yeah, and so it's still in their barn.
Okay.
But we went over there and we took a couple months and we like spent time with their grandparents, and we did a motorcycle trip through like in Ukraine. We went to it's Transnistria.
Okay.
It's like a weird thing. I guess when the Soviet Union was collapsing, they wanted to be part of the Soviet Union, so they had like a little war with Moldova, and now there's basically like a 3-city area. Let's call it a county that's in Moldova that is part of Moldova on a map, but they don't pay taxes. They have their own military. They have a border. And no other country recognizes them. You just basically, I think they got some stored weapons from the Soviet Union. There's just like a random.
They're just living life. They're doing their thing.
Yeah.
So you went there.
Went there.
Nice.
That was just, we didn't even know it existed until we got to Chisinau in the capital and met some people. And they're like, oh yeah, we went to this random country that's like down there. Talk to so-and-so. He's $100 and he'll like drive you through, get you through customs, and then like show you around and be your translator. And
sometimes your stories, I feel like I know a lot of them, being so close to you, but sometimes I'm like, what? Like, when did you go to this country, non-country. Like, I haven't heard about this yet. So I guess kind of what I'm getting at is like, you're very well traveled. And that's super neat for us for the breadth of information that you have for an adventure travel gear company. So I love that. Will you dive in a little bit about our name and like the origin and the meaning? Because you touched on a point that I want you to share. Yeah. I'm asking a leading question.
Well, we used to be Trucka.
Yep.
We had to rebrand, and that wasn't fun. So we start spitballing everything, which that was I throwing everything on the board. Me and you putting anything together, and occasionally would just go and like easy thing to do is use a word from a different country. A lot of them seem to already be used. Not many people think of Romanian languages when they just think of let's pull a word. Like they go from French, German, Latin. They never really just say let's do Romanian. And you proposed TEREN, which is basically the word for terrain in Romanian. And it worked really well because it kind of had the same look as Trucka, the same, like, it was easy to like take kind of our old emblem and everything and kind of like redo it. And
yeah, if you look at the R in TEREN, it's the center letter, and it's
a little bit different than the others.
It's a little bit different than the others. And to me, it feels like a nod or a little Easter egg for the fact that it is Romanian.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say that our gear takes us to those places that you described as like tougher to get to, not as often sought out, but still beautiful and miraculous and experience driven and adventure rich. So I love that we ended up with this after having to change it for measures that we had no control over. So,
and now I'm going to give a plug to Romania. Like, I feel like most people, when they are wanting to experience Europe, they want like Romania. They want like Russia.
They just don't know it.
They just don't. I mean, they want to go to Paris and they want to sit on like a cobblestone road and listen to people speak French while they have coffee or wine and look at old buildings in the background. And usually you go to those places and there's guys selling you knockoff Prada bags and tour bus fulls of people speaking English. And Romania is the place where you go to and you'll have a square with like castle walls still half built around the city, and the coffee's like $1 and the wine's maybe $2. And everybody's speaking Romanian, which sounds like French or Italian.
So if you know anyone, listeners, if you know anyone who works for the Romanian tourism, we're looking for sponsors for this this podcast vlog, whatever it's going to end up being. I don't know where it's going to land. Such YouTube, hey YouTube. But yeah, so that's cool. Well, let me hop over here to our next question. While I'm looking, find your favorite sticker on this desk. What do you think your favorite sticker is, and tell us about it.
I'm guessing you can't pick a TEREN sticker, right? Like,
you can.
Well, I mean, that's biased. Let's go. Let's mix it up a little bit.
I don't know how interesting that would be. I was hoping you'd be able to do this a little faster. I'm ready with my next question. I don't know what you're
doing. Give me the next question. I'll think about them both at the same time. Now I'm on the spot, and I feel like I got to pick something cool.
All right, so your favorite sticker is one question, and then your favorite.
I kind of like this random carriage. I don't know why. Like, it just feels way out of place.
Adventure Coach Works. Okay, I think we met them at an Overland Expo once. Last year.
Is this like Adventure Amish? I grew up in Amish country, so that's interesting.
We'll have to look it up, find their website, put it on the screen. We'll do all the things.
I like how you just gave yourself a lot of extra post work.
Oh, post work is heavy on this one. You got to edit out Nick Rader Raderisms. But the next question is, okay, so we've built up a pretty solid product lineup. We've built the full kit. What is your favorite TEREN piece?
I mean, I like the pants. I think that's just the the easiest
That's what
one.
Nick said too. I mean, that's what I'm doing Raiderisms. So Nick is famous for saying June when he means July, or 9 when he means 6. Like the things that are close, they're too close.
Yeah. The brain scrambles them up, and I say the wrong one.
But that's what Chris said as well. But tell me why the pants.
I mean, they're just so good. They're so comfortable. You can wear them with anything. I wear them every day. I mean, I've had to actively search out some of different pants just so I can kind of get my head outside of these are what pants obviously should be like, and this is how they should feel. And you sometimes forget how awesome they are until you put other pants on. You're like, oh man, no wonder I wear these every day. So there's that. I think part of it is just like the amount of time you spend in them. I love our other pieces. Like our rain show's awesome, but it's not like I see it pouring rain outside. And I'm like, oh, thank God it's raining, so I can finally wear that shell again.
James, on the other hand, did say, "Thank God it's raining" in his episode.
Yeah, well, he's a kayaker. I am not a good kayaker.
You're just not a legit. You're not a committed kayaker.
I think I say I kayak. I'm not a kayaker, but there's probably a distinction now where...
Oh, yeah. I used to be a climber, and now I climb.
Yeah.
I'm someone who can climb.
Yeah. I don't get all the invites to the places they go to because I'm not that good.
So you can't keep up.
Yeah, I wanted to say any more, but then I was like, oh, you couldn't keep up before. Maybe you should just try not even bother making yourself look cool.
Nice. So, okay, as we're wrapping up really quick, I just want to ask one last thing. What did you do last weekend?
Oh,
this is hilarious that he forgot this already.
I was in the Turks in Caicos, Providenciales.
So walk us through that. So all of a sudden you had people down there, and Anka was down there, your wife, and you had some stuff to do here, but then you just what happened?
We have a big project that we're working on. Like construction project, and it was supposed to be done the end of the year. And so this was going to be like, okay, finally we can go on vacation and enjoy it. So we planned to go to the Caicos with some friends since it's cold here and it's warm there. And the project's not done yet. So I already had my ticket. We already had the Airbnb paid for with everybody. Anka was going to go, and then it just turned out instead of me leaving on Tuesday, I was going to leave Friday and go from Friday to Sunday. So I got there Tuesday afternoon and had
Friday afternoon. See, he did it.
I did do it. That's because I just said Tuesday. I got there Friday afternoon, and then I had to come back Sunday around noon. So I don't know, what is that? 2 days?
Yeah, you had a good 36 hours.
Yeah, it was great. Found out there's kite surfing there. Never been kite surfing, so that was fun. So
nice.
Got some instructional kite surfing and spent a couple hours doing that. I'd say it's worth it.
Nice. So for me, you've traveled over 30 countries at one time, kind of in a row. You've been to these far off, crazy places. You're willing to fly down to Turks and Caicos on a Friday afternoon and back on a Sunday afternoon. That makes me, I like that in one of our co-founders. These are pretty good travel qualities.
Yeah.
For a co-founder of Adventure Travel Gear. Pretty inspirational to me. I need to do more of the weekend fly away for a day or two and then fly back. I think that's something that I haven't done as much as the others. But
I mean, I would more recommend than staying longer. But hey, if you can only get in a weekend, you can only get a weekend. So take what you can get.
And going back to the book, travel for the sheer fun of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're going to end this episode. You know
Do
what?
you have a catchphrase that you sign out on now?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure this out, but it's been dry January, and we're recording right now on February 1st. So I'm going to go see if we have a beer, and I'll be right back. I found something else.
Is it pickle whiskey?
It's not pickle whiskey. So on January 3rd or 4th, Chris and I had this meeting, and he was like, you know what? That deserves a shot. And he had this thing, and it was all perfect and ready. And then he's doing this, and then I had it right here. and I remembered that I was doing dry January. I smelled it, and then here, I'll let you go first. So, cheers. See you next week. I'm gonna get mine now. This is my first sip of alcohol in like 31 days and a half. I could have had a beer potion this morning, but I elected not to.